You take the world as given. You assume that what you see, think, and feel reflects what is real. Yet Ibn Arabi questioned this certainty. He said that what you call reality is only the appearance of reality, a form shaped by perception, not the truth itself. What you experience is not false, but it is incomplete. Every perception is filtered through what you already believe to be true. You are surrounded by meaning, yet you often mistake form for essence. Ibn Arabi asked, if perception depends on interpretation, how can you ever know what truly is? And if illusion and truth coexist in the same act of awareness, how can you separate what is real from what only appears to be real? Ibn Arabi lived in 12th century Andalusia, a time when knowledge was divided between philosophy and mysticism. Philosophers pursued truth through reason and argument, while mystics sought it through direct experience. Ibn Arabi stood between these paths. He spoke of a reality that could not be confined to either logic or emotion. He called existence an unfolding act of divine imagination, real enough to appear, but not absolute in itself. For him, illusion was not a mistake of the senses, but a necessary form of revelation. The visible world was a language, a symbolic expression of meanings beyond perception. You believe you see the world as it is, but what you see is shaped by what you expect to find. Perception does not simply reveal. It constructs. It organizes, selects, and names according to memory and desire. Ibn Arabi explained that illusion begins not in the world, but in this process of naming. What you call reality is the reflection of your own way of seeing. The mind gives form to the formless and then forgets that it did so. The illusion is not that appearances exist, but that you treat them as complete. What if every perception is only a partial recognition of a greater whole? For Ibn Arabi, illusion was not deception, but incompleteness. It is the way truth becomes visible to a limited perspective. Illusion is the form through which the real allows itself to be known, step by step. To see through illusion does not mean to destroy appearances, but to understand what they reveal. Every form hides a message. Every limitation hints at what exceeds it. You begin to see that illusion is not the opposite of truth, but its outer layer. If illusion points toward truth, then perhaps what you call falsehood is only a misunderstanding of what truth is trying to show. The greatest illusion, Ibn Arabi said, is the self. You believe you are the one who perceives, the stable center of thought and decision. Yet this I is not constant. It shifts with every condition, every mood, every belief. It is not the source of perception, but its product. The self is the lens through which awareness interprets experience. The lens does not see. It only filters. To see through illusion, the self must become transparent. You begin to notice how strongly you identify with the voice that says, I am, but who is speaking? And when this voice falls silent, what remains that still knows? Ibn Arabi described existence as divine imagination. Kyle. Reality, he said, is neither entirely real nor entirely unreal. It exists in a middle state, like thought given form. Every perception is God imagining himself through you. The world is not independent of the divine. It is the divine in manifestation. Illusion arises when you separate the form from its origin, when you take the image as self-existent. Yet to deny the image is to deny the means through which the real becomes visible. The task is not to escape illusion, but to recognize it as the divine speaking in symbols. What you see is not apart from truth. It is truth unfolding as appearance. To live within illusion consciously is the art of discernment, what Ibn Arabi called furqan. It is the ability to see relation rather than opposition. You no longer divide things into real and unreal, sacred and ordinary. You begin to observe how every form depends on another, how meaning arises through contrast. Discernment does not reject illusion. It reveals its purpose. You stop asking, "Is this true?" and start asking, "What truth does this express?" Seeing through illusion becomes an act of understanding, not judgment. The world does not need to disappear for truth to appear. It only needs to be read correctly. The more you observe, the more the boundary between illusion and reality begins to fade. Illusion is not separate from the real. It is its outer expression. The real is not hidden behind illusion. It is present within it. Ibn Arabi wrote that truth manifests as form and conceals itself through that same form. Illusion and reality are not two worlds, but two ways of seeing one. When you stop dividing, the contradiction dissolves. Illusion becomes revelation. The apparent becomes transparent. The deception was never in the world, but in perception's insistence on opposition. Can you still call anything false when even illusion performs the work of truth? Ibn Arabi's insight was not abstract. It was a method of attention. To see through illusion, you must observe without adding, naming, or comparing. Watch how perception arises. Notice how thought rushes to interpret. Then, let interpretation fall away. Each perception becomes a mirror of awareness, not as an object, but as a movement of consciousness knowing itself. You do not escape illusion by closing your eyes to it, but by seeing its origin. The practice is not to look at reality, but to look through it. What appears becomes transparent to the one perceiving, until only awareness remains seeing itself. At a certain point, even the observer dissolves. There is no longer one who sees and another who is seen. Awareness recognizes that it is both. Ibn Arabi called this the unity of being, wadat al-wujud. Illusion disappears, not because it vanishes, but because separation no longer makes sense. The self that sought truth realizes it was only another appearance within awareness. When seeing no longer belongs to anyone, truth is no longer hidden. What remains is simple, seeing itself, silent and direct. The seeker and the sought were never two. Illusion was only the thought that they were apart. You now understand why Ibn Arabi said the world is both real and unreal. Illusion is not falsehood, but the language through which truth becomes knowable. What once appeared to conceal the real was, in fact, its expression. When awareness recognizes itself in all appearances, illusion becomes revelation. There is no need to reject the world. Its impermanence is the proof of the infinite. The act of seeing and the seen are one motion, consciousness reflecting its own meaning. To see through illusion is to know that there is only this act of awareness, endlessly forming and dissolving. The veil remains, but now is transparent. It hides nothing because everything shines as knowing itself.